on the last episode of the Shaka 41 and the Million.
Just quickly go in there and get anything done. They have to argue.
And speaking of, the racist history of tipping. You might not think of tipping as a legacy of slavery, but it has a far more racialized history than most Americans realize. Tipping originated in feudal Europe and was imported back to the United States by American travelers eager to seem sophisticated. The practice spread throughout the country after the Civil War as U.S. employers, largely in the hospitality sector, looked for ways to avoid paying formerly enslaved workers. One of the most notorious examples came from the Pullman Train Company, which hired newly freed African-American men as porters. Rather than paying them a real wage, Pullman provided the black porters with just a meager pittance, forcing them to rely on tips from their white clientele for most of their pay. Several states sought to end the practice in the early 1900s, often in recognition of its racist roots. We may live in a very different society from 150 years ago, but the sub-minimal tip wage still exasperates the inequalities passed down from that time. Workers in the restaurant industry are far more likely to be poor or near poor than the general population. Sure, upscale restaurants are where wealthy patrons offer servers good tips on expensive menu items can provide a good living, but those jobs are far and few in between and dominated by white men.
That's true, because if you think about it, like places like the Sonic and stuff like that, they pay their people, you know,
they like $3,
$3, yeah.
Dallas. And then I worked on tips, limo driver, fam, and then when Uber got here,
exactly.
You think we should give up tipping?
Well, not if that's what people's livelihood is depending on.
Well,
because
I don't care about that. Look at your people over there, damn Saltgrass. They don't deserve no tip.
Well, no, some people don't deserve a tip, but I mean, you tip accordingly. But, you know, it shouldn't be dependent on tips for people to be able to pay their bills.
Mine go like this. Every time you mess up, I take $1.
Well,
every time you see I need something to drink, I take $1. Every time you don't see if I need something else, I take $1. Am I ready to go? I take $1. You don't check nothing? Jackie up.
Yes, y'all listen to us every Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time at kybnradio.com or
KYBN Radio 98.1 in Mountain View, California FM, but you ain't gonna hear it if you don't live in Mountain View, California.
And then again on demand at pushgapradios with an S.com.